Hello now.
Hello.
Okay, you can hear me. Your mic works as well.
I can. Yeah.
Do you want to share your screen now so
Yeah,
it's
sure. Just
sorted before people join in?
yeah. Give me one moment. Um, da, da, da. Just a bit slow at the moment. Sorry. Let me just try close and load a Windows because that's probably what's slowing it down. Get rid of that. Get rid of this. Um, right. Okay. Start screen share now. There you go. Should be able to see that.
Oh, yes, I see the screen now. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you, mate.
So we're just gonna wait a few more moments so people can join in.
Sure. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, yeah. Rather wait for everyone to be here before making a start. How many people are we expecting?
We have 30 sign-ups, but I'm guessing maybe half of those and some unregistered members as well. But 30
That's
sign
fine.
yeah, based on the forms.
Yeah, you always get people who show up on the day or who register and don't turn up, so that's
Yeah.
fine. I expect to see Afrin and Rajiv here.
Yes, a friend says she's battling with Teams. I think she got kicked out of her own devices, so now she's.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Um, are you? Do you want to? You are recording this session, aren't you?
Yes, it is. Yeah, it will be
That's good.
uploaded to YouTube.
Brilliant. Awesome.
I know. So I think to make it fair to the people who came early and to make sure we do not stay too long as well, I think it's
Yep,
probably good
understood.
to start now. Yeah.
Yep. I guess you're going to cut the recording down, so we cut all this bit out when you put it live.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Niall Ashley, and I am a representative and a stream lead for Waves, which is part of the GS network, which is GS UK and GSNL in the United Kingdom and Netherlands, respectively. So this is me. I want to say now, not quite. I've gained a bit of let's say I've gained a bit of muscle. It's not muscle, it's the other one. But anyways, I that's kind of roughly what I look like now. In case anyone's interested. So I'm a security consultant at Vitali Limited. I'm a chairperson for GS UK and for Waves, as mentioned. I'm a tech channel rising star and an IBM champion. And my kind of career pipeline, as it were, is being an aero engineer and then becoming a mainframe techie. So that's my kind of journey. So I like to joke that I inherited my dad's taste in rock music and his skill in maths. but I didn't inherit his receding hairline. So you win some and you lose some. Thankfully, I've seemed to have won on those accounts. Um, so yeah, so that's me. But obviously, you guys are not 27. You're not my age. Most of you are going to be between 18 and 21 years old. People watching this might even be younger. You might have students who are 16 and they're watching this video. And I was that young once. Once upon a time I was 16 years old, and I was going for my first job interview at Waitrose in the town that I live in for a part-time retail job. So that's me 11 years ago. Now, over the 11 years, I've kind of had this journey from where I was to where I am now. So I did work experience at a load of places. RAF Leeming in Yorkshire, that's a Royal Air Force base with 90 Signals Unit. EA Games Criterion in Surrey. So they were working on at the time Battlefield 1, and they were also working on the Star Wars Battlefront VR mission, the Battlefront remake. But that was an EA Games kind of company. Criterion used to do the Need for Speed series. Um, Airbus obviously worked at in Flintshire. The picture second from the right, where we're up the mountain with the big banner, that was taken at Scarfell Pike, which we climbed as part of an outward bound kind of team building kind of event. And then obviously worked on the shop floor doing aero engineering. And then finally BMC Software and Vitali, which are both based in Worcestershire in Bromsgrove. So that's kind of a rough timeline of events as to where I got to where I am now. And I've obviously changed my direction a few times. I did work experience in software engineering, and I did work experience in video games and in the RAF. And I was not really sure what I wanted to do. And it's difficult working out what is the kind of the goal that I have here. Where's the kind of the place that I feel like I fit in the mainframe space. There's actually quite a number of different jobs you can do, and it can be difficult at a student level to work out which job you want to do. Do I want to work in app development? Do I want to work on software? Maybe, maybe not. Do I want to work on kind of projects? ESM migrations, data storage migrations, etc. Maybe, but those kind of could be more sporadic. Like I get one here, and then I have to wait a few months, and I get one later. But they're 2 years each, and you're kind of waiting between each job. Or would I want to work directly for a client? For a bank, and I want to help them run their service and do a good job of seeing that through, making sure there's a consistent baseline kind of a healthy baseline for the company, whether that's in kind of performance, tuning, automation, security, etc. So the first thing I wanted to do was, following on from my journey, I wanted to recommend something that didn't exist when I started in the mainframe space, but does exist for you, and I would really recommend you look into it. And that is the IBM Skills Depot, and more specifically, as part of that, the IBM Z101 learning track. Now, as part of your time in, Mainframe Student Society at Wolverhampton, you might have heard of something called, IBM Z Explore, and that actually comes in as part of this module. So you'll see on the kind of the learning track, there's a kind of a flow. You start with the AP Computer Science Principles, and you end, the last course you do is Introducing ZOS Unix System Services. You can do them out of order, but that's the recommended path. And it says it's around 96 hours. It can differ. It could take some people longer, but it could take some people substantially less time. And as part of that, you'll see Z Explore concepts and advanced essentials, and then ideally you'd go on to do your all-star, which is the kind of finale, the culmination. Now, the reason we are showing this here is because Z101 as a learning track includes Z Explore, but it also includes modules from Khan Academy and IBM Skills Build. So you're learning about things practically by coding on, Z Explore. You're learning about things more holistically or theoretically through Khan Academy and Skills Build. And then they even have things like a Z17 single frame hardware tour. So you can see the hardware that you're learning about. Which is, quite a rarity, because, to be honest, a lot of people in the mainframe space don't actually know what the hardware they work upon actually looks like. So this is a really great learning track. I personally would recommend it. I know within Waves we've had multiple people who would recommend it. Ricky West, who's kind of the director, I guess, of Waves, he has a trainee who he has basically sat down with, and he's helped them complete the entire IBM Z101 learning track. And he was actually really impressed by it, and he thought it was a much better journey than starting straight with Z Explore. and then not knowing, okay, what is a mainframe? All right, I'm doing all this stuff in, Visual Basic, Visual Studio Code, sorry, but I don't really know what I'm actually looking at. I don't really understand where it all ties in. Where's the context to this content? So that's why we would recommend that. Now, I've put an arrow down because that's the bit that's going to be important for me. But after finishing the Z101 track, you should ideally aim to finish the system administrator learning track. There's like two kind of extra modules after that. There's I think a 201 and a 301, which is kind of the equivalent of, from 101, but slightly more advanced. And that's the learning track that is the most well-rounded in terms of knowledge of ZOS systems. That's the IBM Z operating system systems. Alternatively, you could undertake the security specialist track, which includes the security administrator course and networking security. You could undertake the application developer track, or you could include the Linux administrator track. And so there's actually a modernization one as well. So there's actually a few different directions you can go in. And that's the one that I went in. And at the time, I didn't have this learning track. I didn't have the skills depot. So now I would really strongly recommend you look into it, because you have a resource that wasn't available to me and a lot of people who are, older and more experienced than you. And I lament the fact that I didn't have this, and I wish, that other people do get that opportunity, do have that potential. So yeah, so don't pass that up. That's my strong suggestion. But this security administrator course that I've done, that's the bit I want to talk about a bit more today. Security administration. What does that look like? And we want to acknowledge that security administration is only one small part of the entire security kind of discipline. You don't just administer a system. You would do some engineering and eventually architecture. That's the kind of career direction I want to go in, starting with the fundamentals, security administration, then learning to be a security engineer to kind of oversee big projects and kind of milestones on that system, and eventually become a security architect, overseeing the entire design of a system. If a client is moving from one security product to another, I would tell them the best way to set that up. I would tell them the kind of pitfalls and the quirks, the foibles that they need to be aware of. But the giving them the lay of the land rather than knowing individual pieces, knowing the whole wider system. So this is, as I say, the kind of the area we want to focus on today in this presentation. So security administration, that in my case and in this case here, that uses RACF. So RACF is, I'm not going to do that. Look, I'm not gonna waffle, and I'm not gonna do a whole paragraph. Let's be realistic here, okay? Before we go into what RACF is or isn't, we need to know all the fundamentals. So let's not do that. Yeah, let's just say really clearly what is security all about before we even look at RACF as a product. What is security all about? Okay, fundamentally, security is about mitigating risks and patching vulnerabilities. The equivalent, the analogy I use is the equivalent of a bouncer at a nightclub or a security guard at a building. You're basically just making sure the right people are allowed in, and if there's an area like a door that's been left ajar, you shut it. If you know that there's a window that's not on the latch and it's again potentially someone could break in, you fix that. You're finding risks, shutting them down, patching those vulnerabilities, and basically maintaining the kind of authorization, the security and authorization. So that's where we're at. So threats to a company's IT system may include such things as insider threats, code-based vulnerabilities, or day zero kind of exploits. Human error, something as simple as, oh, I forgot to shut the door. Oh, that we've got a really secure bank vault, but unfortunately we left it open. Hackers who, insider threats obviously are serious, but hackers are usually external. Insider threats are maybe coerced or just, they're just angry, they're peeved at their employers. Ransomware, I'm not actually, I'm not sort of trying to steal your data for me. I don't really care about the data. I just don't want you to have it, so you pay me to give it back. Now, mainframes are very secure and renowned for being secure because their architecture is designed with minimal vulnerabilities and therefore maximizing the protection of customer information and client information. So despite this architecture, there will be security threats that do target mainframes and that intend to interfere with the data inside. So that's why we can't be complacent. There's an expression used in the mainframe industry that the mainframe is the most secure platform in the world. Recently, over the last, say decade, we've shifted that mindset from the most secure platform in the world to the most secureable. And that's because it isn't secure by default. You have to put the effort in. You have to be diligent. A vast number of large-scale enterprises and financial institutions rely on the mainframe platform. Banks, retailers, insurance companies, the aviation industry, airliners, militaries, governments, stuff like the census or healthcare providers. There's loads of areas that rely on this platform to process crucial workloads. But obviously, with this reliance, there comes a risk, and that's where products like RACF, alongside effective security practices, security practitioners, can help to mitigate risks, keep data safe, and keep workloads uninterrupted. So we keep talking about RACF. What is RACF? Resource Access Control Facility is the kind of the main one of the most commonly used products that is known as an external security manager or an ESM. Some organizations refer to it as an enterprise security manager, but it's basically, it is a security manager. That's the functional, the most important bit. So RACF is actually one of 3 ESM softwares for the IBM Z mainframe systems. The other 2 were owned by CA and now Broadcom, which are ACF2 and TSS, or Top Secret Security, which provides this security management services for the IBM Z operating system, or ZOS, with the Z, in case anyone's curious, standing for zero downtime. So when we say it's a facility, it's effectively software that you have to learn to use. You have to know how to use it. You don't just install RACF or kind of get your license authenticated and then sit back and RACF is just going to solve all my problems. I can do nothing. I can put my feet up. It doesn't work like that. You have to know what you're doing. You have to put the effort in. The way I would, sometimes the analogy I use is in, Star Wars, they've got these big blast doors that are like multiple layers of all these, I don't know, random elements, plasteel or something. They get these really thick doors and they shut them, and they have all these rotating bits, and you think, God, that's impenetrable. And then some some Jedi with a lightsaber just comes and cuts through. You can't just pretend that your system's going to be locked down, it's going to be secure, the vault is shut, everything's safe. You have to put the effort in, and you have to be diligent. Someone can come and they will try to break their way in. So it's important to kind of acknowledge how RACF is used. How do we use this? Okay, so effectively the bottom line is that RACF uses profiles. And our changes are made via commands affecting these profiles. And the profile is effectively almost a set of security kind of criteria, security kind of attributes. So when we create profiles or amend them, that will be attributes for users, for groups, for data sets. So there's an actual user, there's me or you, but we have a profile, our account. We have a group, but the group has a list of, the profile, which has a list of kind of criterias, things it can or cannot do, areas it is or isn't allowed in. Data sets themselves, they're the entity, and a profile is a thing that kind of encompasses and protects and kind of provides attributes for it. I guess it's like saying the profile, is the bouncer and the data set is the nightclub. Not everyone can get in because not everyone's on the VIP list or the access control list. So these commands are processed within ZOS, and when we sort of make the command, it's sent via RACF to the operating system, and basically that's where it's kind of stored into the main database. It's stored into the main mainframe system. But it's also important to note that when we ask for access, maybe I am or am not on the access list, that's actually processed from the operating system through something called SAF, or the System Authorization Facility, and that will basically use a function called rackroute, a macro called rackroute, and that will check that query by passing it along to RACF. So there's this kind of little middleman SAF, which you might hear about sometimes. The more you learn about RACF, you might hear about SAF. So RACF commands can include things like adding user profiles, add user, setting their attributes, or altering a user, so alt user, defining data sets, add DSD, and then altering them again, changing their attributes or their kind of specific segments, Alt DSD, connecting the users that we just mentioned into group profiles. So, a connect function, we do an add group, create the group, and then connect the user, and then permitting the group to access the dataset profile, and permitting the group profile onto the access list. So that would be a permit command. And there's all these these commands that we use, but effectively the reason I'm referring to users are connected to groups and groups are permitted to the resource profile or the dataset profile is because that's a good framework to think about when you're trying to encourage role-based access control. Users are never directly permitted, they're permitted via group connections. So that's just something to be aware of. If you're ever interested in security, you need to think with a kind of a least privilege, zero trust, and a role-based access kind of framework in your head. So some examples that I want to show you guys are as follows. So basically, in this case, we've got Z-Secure, and I'm looking at a user. So I can actually say things like, when do I want that user to be able to get access to the system? Ingress limiting is kind of the phrase you might use. So in this case, you can see that there's a load of information here. And what we've done is we've set up, and I'll see if I can get a laser pointer to sort of show this properly. But we've basically said this user, Nash, who has the name of Niall Ashley, which is me, and they've got their installation data here. They've got their owner and their default group, which are some of the base segments that a user ID must have. They have a group connection here, but we can ignore that because it's an example. And what they have is they are revoked. Whether they are revoked, which they're not, whether they're inactive, which they're not. Inactive is almost like they've been, the account hasn't been used for so long, it is set to inactive, and then the next time the user tries to log in, they're automatically revoked. But again, that's not true because I've logged in recently. And then these two rows here are quite important. So what we've said is the days of the week that the user can log on, and the time of day the user can log on, and that's limiting basically access or ingress limiting. So the reason we bring this up is an example I used recently at the University of Wolverhampton was if you work in a call center, you only call people during the hours of roughly 9 to 5. Maybe you log in a little bit early and you finish a little bit late, but roughly 9 to 5. So someone shouldn't need access outside of those hours. Otherwise, that's a breach of least privilege. So what we can see at the top here is we can run an alt user command altering the nature of that user ID. We obviously specify the user, and then we say when are they allowed into the system. And it's only on the days of, in this case, weekday, but if it was Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, we would put MTTF. And obviously down there, we on the Z-Secure kind of GUI, we can see that we can actually just delete characters or amend them, and we've got Sunday to Saturday is the week rather than Monday to Sunday. And then we can set the time, and we just do that in a 24-hour kind of military standard. So hour, minute, colon, hour, minute, 0830, 1730, etc. So that's one example of a command we can use, and the Z-Secure kind of GUI, user interface that will help us kind of showcase how we might perform administration within a RACF system. So another one here is passwords. So we've got, this system will have password rules or identification authentication options, and it will remember, for example, if the user hasn't logged in for 120 days, they're prevented from logging in. So that's something we can set up. If they put the wrong password in more than 3 times, i.e. on the 4th attempt, it will revoke their user ID. How many passwords are forbidden? So a good example of this would be, let's say, let's say Idris is logging into a system and he works at, the Barclays Bank, their kind of call center, and he has a login and he has to change his password 12 times. He could literally have the password January, February, March, April, May, June, or something to that effect. And then when he's got to the end of the year, he just restarts back at January, because he only needs 12 passwords. He only has 12 passwords saved. So as soon as the 12th password is put in, it resets. Now that's not very good, right? Because we know that in January, he's going to reuse the January password from last year. So if we do 13, he can't reuse that January password. He has to think of something different, at least for 1 month in a year. Now that's really good because that forces people to be a bit more smart with the types of passwords they put in. So you might have at the very least you put something like Jan 26 for January 2026, and that's just a little bit better because then that does depend on the year and you're not recycling the password. It's not perfect, but it's better. Um, we can see here the password change wait days. So if Idris resets his password, he can't reset it 12 times in a day to get back to January. He can't be like, oh, I've got 13 passwords saved, so I can't reuse January. But if I just change it to A and then B and then C and then D over and over and over again and go through all of my stored passwords that are forbidden, I can reset that the counter. I can reset the saved passwords. So we make sure that he has to wait at least 1 day between each password reset. The password change interval, so how often he has to change it, roughly 30 days is pretty standard. That's the duration of a month. Passphrase is basically passphrases are longer than passwords. Passwords have a limit of 8 characters. Passphrases I think can be up to something like 100 characters long. I'd be gobsmacked if someone actually had an 100-character password, but you can in theory have a really long one, and so the change interval could be longer or shorter, but passphrases are technically more secure. um, Password change warning days, how many days it warns you. In 5 days your password will need to be reset, in 4, in 3, etc. And then where the mixed case is allowed, it probably should be. Where the special characters allowed, probably should be. Again, from a security standpoint, the more variables you have, the more options you have, then the higher the number of permutations, and therefore the harder it is to brute force your way into a system. And then the password encryption algorithm. There are only two on the mainframe. You either have KDFAES, which is the highest encryption type you can use, or the other option is legacy because it's literally not up to par by today's standards. Um, and so what we can see here is also we've got MFA support available, yes, which we do want, obviously, because that supports zero trust. So to change that sort of thing, we would run a set opts or set rackf options command, and then we would specify something like, right, we're changing the password settings, we're changing the history, we're specifying that mixed case is allowed and special characters allowed. And so this is the command that would be run to affect this interface in Z-Secure. But in Z-Secure, you can also just overtype these fields, press enter, and it will make the changes. But that's whether or not you have the Z-Secure product installed. I'm just trying to help you with visualizing this. Another area is Z-Secure Suite. We would look at things like group access, role-based access control that we touched upon earlier. So in this case, we've got my user ID again, my fictional user ID, and all the different groups I'm connected to. And we can see here that I am a security administrator at secadmin, and the at character at the start is indicative of an access group. So groups that start with an at typically are groups that provide access, whereas groups that start with a hash are indicative of holding groups. So people are in the security team, and so their owner is security, but they don't actually get any access from that group. So in this case, you can see I'm connected to a number of groups, and you can see here that one of them is app development. Well, that's a bit weird, isn't it? I'm clearly not working in app development. I'm working as security administrator. Kix admin. Well, it's still administration, but it's a completely different product. DB2. Well, DB2 has its own internal security, so maybe I do need access to DB2, to perform some security changes or some security checks. Maybe we're migrating from, DB2's internal security to a consolidated RACF security, which is what we want. That's what we would recommend to clients. So again, maybe I do need that access, but not forever. And then security on Unix, security in RACF, system programmer access, which is quite a kind of catch-all term. System programmers have access to loads of different things. They do a lot of different work, but that's just another example. Maybe I don't need access to that. And then Z-Secure, the full suite. So Z-Secure admin, Z-Secure audit, etc. So let's say I want to make sure this system adheres to role-based access control, and I need to disconnect people from certain groups, removing their connections from a group profile that provides access permissions. We can instill revoke dates to any connections that are that are relevant. So DB2, like we talked about earlier, and we can we can also, maybe that's for a change window. So maybe software updates or security consolidation projects. So we set a date. Access is only allowed until the end of that project. And then we would just delete in this column here on the left, we'd put a D to delete the group connections or remove the group connections that aren't relevant. So you can see there that we've done a D, D, D. We've set a date of the 13th of February 2026. That's a random date I've just pulled out of the air, but it's because I'm going to Manchester and delivering a talk there at the University of Manchester on that date. And then we've got there deleting the system programmer group connection. So I've deleted those. But again, if we don't have Z secure, what would the command look like? Without Z secure admin, we'd have to type in the command. We'd have to do that manually rather than over typing this on this GUI. We'd use a connect nash, which is the user ID, the group that's specified at db2, and we would specify the authority of use, but we would specify a revoke date. And you can see that instead of day, month, year, so 2 Ds, 3 Ms, and 4 Ys, we've got month, day, year, but only 2 characters for each, and they're separated by a slash. So we've gone from a kind of clear date format, the somethingth day of what month in what year, to the American format of the month, the date, and then the year, which I don't know why they've done that, but that's sometimes how inconsistent these kind of GUIs are. And personally, why I think the GUI is better, because there's no mistaking. If that was the I don't know, the 12th of Feb, you might read that as the 2nd of December because it would be 02 12 rather than 02 13. So again, I think that the GUI is much better. You get a much clearer date format there. But that's basically the format we'd use: connect space the user ID space group, and then in brackets the actual specified group, the authority, and we can specify that in this case it's use, as you can see in this column, and then the revoke date. And if a user is already revoked, we can set a resume date. So Niall was connected to DB2 and their access is removed now because that revoke date has been reached, but they're going to be involved in another project in the future, so their access can be resumed, and we'd set that date. So you can see how that works. Another product that we might use is Z-Secure Alerts. In this case, it says row 1 to 17 of 75. We haven't actually got 75 of them. We can't fill that in on one screen, and it doesn't mean much to you anyway. But here are some examples. So an unknown user logging on, or a log on of a break glass RACF user ID. So a user who, there's a really serious reason this user's logged in. Well, we probably want to track that, right? Why is a user basically broken the in case of emergency glass to get this user ID out? These two here, ID Aster or ID star, and then UAC of greater than none, are on the ACL of a resource profile. That basically means everybody on the system has access. That's quite dangerous. We want to avoid that. So we want to have an alert when that happens. The warning trait is similar. It gives everyone access and it just logs who's been accessing the resource. It sends them an error message, careful, you typically wouldn't have access, but the profile's in warning mode, but it is basically giving access. So that's something that we might use when we're testing a product. Who is using the product? Can we, someone says they need access, but we're not seeing them use access. So we're getting rid of that. RACF commands issued by a non-special user, special being an attribute. Again, we'd be like, why is that user doing that? Addition or removal to a user of SOA, so special operations or auditor attributes. Addition or removal to a user of UID 0 OMBS segment. That's UID 0 in Unix. That gives a lot of access, super user access. So again, we want to track that. Amendments to restricted users or protected users might want to track. Changes to the set ROPS, the set RECAF options, which we looked at earlier when we changed the password settings. And then creation of discrete dataset profiles, because discrete dataset profiles only protect a dataset on a specific volume. So as soon as that profile is moved to a different volume, that discrete dataset profile is deleted. It's redundant. So again, that's not very safe. We tend to use generic dataset profiles. So those are some alerts, and they can ping an email to a mailbox. They can email specific people. We can set them to actually text a phone or a pager. Z-Secure Alert's a great product, and it's very versatile. The only problem is we have to have had something bad happen or attempted to be happen before we're alerted of it. But maybe we want to stop it before it even gets to that point. And that's where we would utilize something like Z-Secure Command Verifier, and that has its own profiles. So you can see here they would all start with a C4R high-level qualifier. So C4R.aster is what we've searched for. They all have the class of xfacilite. And we can see there's loads of profiles here, and they all do different things. And some of them are generic because they got wildcard characters, and some of them aren't generic. And that's where this column here with the T and the G's comes in. And in this case, they all have an owner of Z secure. But again, we could set that to be anything. So for example, this first one here allows permitted users to have the special attribute when running an alt user command. The next one, for example, limits who can assign the group special attributes during a connect command. This exempt means you're exempt from the Z secure command verify policies, so you're exempt from the rules. You can do whatever you want. For example, this one here, this dataset.acl.aster.sys1.aster, that is actually limiting basically who can be put on the access control list for a sys1 high-level qualifier dataset profile, which would protect, amongst other things, the live and the backup RACF databases. And obviously that's your security database, so you really want that protected. This here, pre-aud, that does prior to a command being run, it audits, it logs the commands. So that's obviously very useful. There's loads of command verify policies. You could have an exhaustive list if you were being very, very granular. But that's another product that we want to show off that can be really useful. And you might see if you end up working for certain clients, certain banks that have that product in use. So we've talked about all this stuff, and you want to learn more about mainframes. Like, where do you go, right? I mean, I could teach you, but I can't teach you forever, right? There's got to be more resources out there. One of the things that I would suggest is, obviously we touched previously on I don't know, come up in the wrong order, but we touched previously on these kind of these modules. You can have your mainframe system administrator, security administrator, the app developer one, which for some reason isn't showing, and Linux on IBM Z and Linux One. These tracks, and then there's all the modules in Skills Build, Z Explore, Khan Academy. And then the main thing that we want to talk about today is Waves, because I represent Waves and we're a support network. So we can support you. So when we previously asked, you want to learn about mainframes, where do you go? Well, you can come to us and we'll help. I mean, I'm here today talking to you guys because I want to help, right? So Waves is about effectively, amongst other things, passing the baton to new mainframers. So I look at Idris and Afrin and Rajiv and all these other people who've graduated, Nishka and Zed and Leonard. And I want to help them. I want to help as many people as I can start their new mainframe career, start their kind of their journey into this space. So we are a user-driven movement of Z enthusiasts who are focused on empowering the next generation, encouraging community and camaraderie, elevating the efforts of aspirants, and promoting teamwork and cooperation, including integrating with the new to Z chapters across the world. And that area where we say elevating the effort of aspirants, one such example relatively recently was I helped Idris promote and publish his article, and he's published that on both LinkedIn and on Medium, amongst other areas. And Waves promoted that. They made banners and they basically did these posts on social media to promote that. So whereas a user individually might only have 200 connections, we might have over 1,000, and we can promote that. Eventually we'll have many thousands, and we promote that to as many people as we can, elevating Idris and therefore potentially helping him get his foot in the door when he starts a job, because his name comes up higher in searches, and that article comes front and center when you Google his name. So that's what we're here to do. And we basically are split into two streams, 101 and 102. 102 is a bit more advanced, so I won't touch on that as much. But 101 is all about introductory content, like we've looked at today. Very kind of bare bones, base level content that's digestible to people who are new, building those foundational skills, really. We want an accessible kind of introduction for newcomers to this mainframe technology, with sessions focused on kind of the concepts, the basic skills, maybe a bit of hands-on learning where we can, or at least visualize learning, so full of illustrations. 102 is slightly more advanced, and that's a higher level content. So that's generally for people who are, maybe a couple years into the job. They know the basics, they know the essentials, but they just need to kind of progress those skills, becoming more confident and through that journeyman level. And both of these fall under the idea of nurturing. So you've got there the kind of the watering can and the seeds. We're helping plant the seeds and nurture them, and basically helping your career grow. So we have some core values at Waves. We want to impart skills, set goals, and cultivate aspiring talent in order to address the skills gap, or the kind of talent gap as many experienced professionals are retiring. You know, a lot of this industry has a kind of aged population. So you might have most mainframe shops in the world, most mainframe sites have staff who are a lot substantially older than 45, 50. Loads of people who have just retired are due to retire within the next 5 or 10 years, maybe even less. So we really need to address that skills gap and as I say, impart those skills, setting those goals and nurturing that. So our audience is students, recent graduates, people who've recently graduated aren't exempt, you can still be supported, and generally early career professionals, so between 0 and 7 years in the industry. So I say 0 to 7 years includes students and graduates. And then our core values are accessibility, curiosity, and collaboration. Okay, so we want you guys to be to get the best kind of opportunities to learn, the most sort of open and supportive opportunities to learn, and have a curiosity to sort of use that learning opportunity. It's all well and good us trying to teach you, but if you're not interested, we can't you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And the ultimate result is bridging the talent pipeline for enterprise IT. We're helping companies get that job filled in. And we'll talk about bridging the talent pipeline later. So I'll leave that up just for a second with our final slides, which will have a few QR codes that I would recommend you scan. So Waves basically do a lot. We've kind of grown a massive amount. We've been to loads of events throughout the year. We host our own, so we've had the Wave Spring event, which I'll talk about shortly because that's not that far away. The GS UK virtual event, which also isn't that far away. The Summer Surf, which is a virtual event that you actually are more than welcome to apply for and to potentially speak at. And then the GS UK conference itself, which is quite a big one. It's this here is our kind of big showstopper, effectively, at the end of the year, in the first week of November. But there's other events. So there's the Zed Skills Fest, Zed Day, Advent of Code. I mean, myself and Ozara's also represented Waves at the IBM Tech Exchange Orlando conference, which is kind of at the bottom in the middle there. I represented and chaired sessions with GSE Nordic, so I was in Sweden last year, and I might be going to Finland this year. The Waves team worked with the Systems Z Enthusiast Discord to organise Re-IPL UK, which I would really recommend if you're interested in this space. If you want to ask any questions, join the Systems Z Enthusiast Discord server. It's amazing. And the Waves team are also in talks to support Emma, which is a memorial apprenticeship scheme, Eli Madison Memorial Apprenticeship Scheme, and that's based in America, but it's expanding to the to Europe and the UK. And they're going to be sharing this, or they have shared this video. They want their trainees to watch this, so that's a great opportunity as well to kind of collaborate. So we talked briefly about this in-person event, and that's really important because we're going to be doing another one this year. And so if you really like this content, if you like the idea of learning more, speak to the people at Mass, speak to the people at Waves, and you might be able to get a kind of scholarship to attend, free attendance basically. But it's an event that was hosted this year and last year by Barclays in Knutsford, Cheshire, but it may be hosted by other sites in the future. We're hoping to make it kind of across the UK, do a bit of a roadshow where we travel around. That's a picture of our speakers. The second picture is the students from Uni of Wolverhampton last year, and then the picture at the bottom right is the students from Bedford College, their cohort, and all of these people attended the event, and Mainframe Society also sponsored the event. So massive credit to Mainframe Society for that. And you can see we've got a number of speakers, all sorts of different ages. Myself and Lucas and Alexander are and I think there might be one or two other people there who are kind of under 30, and some of us are still within the first, say, 3 or 4 years of our career. So we're not kind of veterans, but we were trusted with that opportunity. And overall, the event had just over 100, I think it was 110, 120 people in attendance. And that photo is not everyone. Some people had to leave early, but you can see there's a vast number of people. We had people who travelled from Europe to attend, from North America to attend. We had people from all over, so we did really, really well with that kind of attendance. And as I say, that will be happening again this year, so keep an eye out. The Summer Surf is a virtual event. We had speakers, so Leonard Alejandrino, Zaid Darsot. They were ex-students from University of Wolverhampton, and they were trusted, and they did a great presentation. You have, for the Z Student Ambassador Scheme, we had Lucas San from America, who delivered a session online. And then we had Jose Arias and Joe Winchester and Sujit Neb. So again, people from all across the world who delivered sessions on all sorts of different topics, and it was fantastic. And if you're interested, you should definitely look to attend. Um, and I don't know why the QR codes are so small. I think they're going to get bigger in a minute. But the kind of talent pipeline that we have, it is kind of working. It's still relatively new, but it is working. We've helped Carl Presley get an internship. We supported him with his internship at the IBM office in London. We've got here Maddie Burhan, who's now got a job at TES. And we've got Simran, Nishka, and Leonard who now have jobs at Vitali. But we've also helped, as well, we supported Yatunde and Mina, Yatunde Abakaye and Mina Chand, who now have been on the mentorship program with the Open Mainframe project. So we've also, got this talent pipeline, which I'll show in just a minute, which will help with companies who are hiring in the UK. So IBM, Vitali, Rocket Software, TES or TES, Barclays, Next, Macro4, Bank of America, HSBC, Lloyd, DXC, NatWest. You can tell there's a lot of opportunities. So these are the two most important QR codes. I don't know why they were so small a minute ago, but basically we've got on the left the Waves career opportunity sign up form. We've currently got I think at least 2 organizations that have offered 4 different people each opportunities. So there's basically a form we ask everyone to sign up, and obviously if you graduate you might need to sign again to say, my conditions have changed, I'm no longer a student, I'm a graduate. But the idea is that hopefully if these QR codes do work, which they should, you can sign up with a Waves career opportunity form on the left and say, I'm eligible for a job, I'm interested in jobs, and as jobs are sort of discussed between Waves and the employers, we can then pass your details over directly, and we can basically shortcut, instead of you applying to them, we'll almost do the application for you. We'll pass your name on, and we'll kind of whitelist you. So that can really help. That can promote you and shorten the kind of the process. And the form on the right is to the IBM UK internship sign up form, which again I think is a really worthwhile opportunity. So if you want to do an internship with IBM UK, probably at either, I think they're Manchester or London offices. I believe those are the only 2, but there might be the one at Hursley and Winchester. You can sign that form, and again there might be an opportunity there. You might not work on the mainframe as such, but you might be working for one of the biggest employers in the world, one of the biggest tech companies in the world. So it's definitely worth looking at. That is in about 46-ish minutes. That's everything I can fit into this presentation. However, I wanted to leave some time at the end for questions. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, but please do take a screenshot of this if you still want the QR codes. Obviously there will be a recording going live as well, but also you can just look on LinkedIn for the Waves career opportunity or IBM UK internship, and those links will be provided directly rather than a QR code. So with all that said, does anyone have any questions they want to ask? Absolute silence. I've just blown everyone away. I'm hoping that's a good thing. No questions either means you know nothing, you don't know what to ask, or so so you're so overwhelmed you're like, oh, I don't know even where to start asking a question, or everything and you don't need to ask anything. And I'm hoping it's the latter. So I've seen Adam says all good. Afrin turned her camera on and said nothing, so that's must be good, because otherwise she'd have said that was terrible and I'll stop the recording right now, delete this. No evidence of this terrible presentation.
I think it was generally a very great
Yeah, it
session.
was good. You did really well.
I appreciate the opportunity. I think it's one of the things that me and the Waves team love about the University of Wolverhampton is the relationship that we have. A lot of the people who we're kind of who are doing the most in this space, especially if students, are from Wolves. And you guys have had one of the longest and most successful, most storied mainframe student societies in potentially across the world. And we're really proud of what you guys do, and we want to support. So that's obviously why I'm here today. And there'll be many more speakers over the coming weeks from this mainframe series online that Mass is doing. But yeah, if there's any more that I can ever help with, please don't hesitate to either message me directly on LinkedIn, add me and message me on LinkedIn. Jump on the Discord. Yeah, anything we can help with.
Thank you very much, Niall.
It's my pleasure. I hope it's been good for everyone.
Thank you very much, Niall.
Cheers, everyone.
I think we're having John Baker next week.
Brilliant. Fantastic.
Yeah.
He'll be a great speaker. Probably more professional than me as well. It's a low bar though, right? He won't be wearing a Hawaiian shirt, so.
And we've got Joe the week after.
Oh yeah, Joe Winchester the week
Joe
after.
Winchester's amazing. If you ever get the chance, ask Joe to deliver his Mainframe Movies and Me presentation. I don't know if that's the one he's doing for you guys, but that is one of the funniest presentations I've ever attended. Honestly, it's a contender for one of the the GOAT award, the greatest of all time. So definitely speak to Joe about that, because he'll do numbers. So right. Brilliant. Thank you, everyone. I'll jump off, but as mentioned, if anyone's got any questions, just add me on LinkedIn and we can chat further.
Have a great day now.
Cheers, everyone. Bye-bye now.
Cheers, everyone.
Bye. Thank you, everyone, for joining.